know, but I was in the office
no,
this
no, I'm
afternoon,
not
so I
saying.
asked for 6.
I love the 6 o'clock start. It's really quite nice. It allowed John to go to a
Open
house.
house.
But just so everyone knows, we are live because turn 6.
Huh?
Turn 6 on my
Yes,
computer.
it is.
It's 6. All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to a meeting of the Hampton-Wilbraham Regional School District Policy Subcommittee. It is May 19th, 6 p.m. Jen, would you like to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, boy.
What?
Notes, in case you need to take
Okay.
more.
Yes, please.
All right. So I think we're going to skip around to get our guests out of here as quickly as possible. Is everybody okay if we look at the self-administration and self-carry of medication policy? Well, we can do the cheap. Which one do you think will be quicker, John?
I think self-administration, self-carry. There's actually two medications. One's that's JLCD and JLCDC.
Yeah.
Last two. Yeah.
Can we discuss, just do them both together?
Mhm.
All right. So this is, I don't know, do you want to comment on changes to the policies?
I was here for more for reference. John, do you want to
Oh.
sort of speak to?
Sure. I think that these both talk about some changes to protocols and procedures for administration of medications to students. I would say probably the biggest piece is the creation of a medication administration plan, which is something that Jen has been working on.
We've always had a medication administration plan. It's revising it a little bit, but that's always been in place.
So we went through this new policy, this new suggested policy earlier in the week, and it looks like the types of things that are in here are consistent with the types of things that Jen has been putting into the policy based on the guidelines she's been getting from the Department of Public Health and other places. Well, we're talking about that. The next one, which would be a new one for the district, is about self-administration and self-carry medications. I think probably the biggest thing that we talked about when the three of us met to discuss it was number 9, which is, we noted that it's an and/or, so there may be some situations where we can foresee allowing students to self-administer but not self-carry, which is allowed for in this policy. So I think those are the two main things that I would highlight.
Do we have students who are self-carrying and administrating now?
So for self-carrying students with diabetes, cystic fibrosis, asthma, and life-threatening allergies can self-carry, and some do, and certainly the students with diabetes have. So yes, beyond that, we do not have any other situation where a student is self-carrying a medication.
So this would open the door to more circumstances for that?
It would be really unusual that, like, I can't see many instances where someone is going to, but potentially it could. What has come up would be an overnight field trip where a teacher is holding on to the medication. A student knows what they're taking, knows everything about their medication, goes to that teacher to essentially
Be dispensed.
Be dispensed, exactly. The teacher's not giving the medication, but the student is, but they're just being held by the teacher. So that has happened and probably will happen some more in some instances.
So like a student that takes allergy medicine only as needed for various allergic rhinitis kind of stuff, you would favor them, that being held by a teacher and then the student asks for it? Or?
I would in the nurse's office. So it really is for unusual circumstances. I mean, most kids are not carrying and we don't encourage kids to carry their own medications. you know, I'm sure there are students out there that do, that carry the Advil in their, you know, sports bag or whatever, but we don't encourage it. So it's more for those unusual circumstances so that they can attend. A nurse isn't necessarily required or needed to be there, but they need to take a medication.
Two things I would say about that are, the beginning of this policy on page 32 says the nurse may permit, it's not a must permit.
Yep.
And then the other thing is that it is pursuant to the medication administration plan, which means that if that's going to be the case, that a student self-administering, all the components of the other policy come into play about how the medication is going to be stored, what are the conditions under which it's going to be administered, everything like that. It's not just like the nurse said, it's okay, you can carry around your Benadryl with you.
Okay.
I should mention, I forgot to name something which is on page 27 we talked about. In addition, Jen recommends is that, this would be the second paragraph in the new policy, after where it says no one but the school nurse. She would like to insert nurse contractor, so in a case where we have a nurse who we're hiring into the district who's in charge of the medication, make sure that they're included in the policy.
Okay. That sounds reasonable, yeah.
Some nurses is mostly where that, it makes it sound like some nurse wouldn't be allowed.
Essentially sub-hired in for field trips or
Yeah.
something like that, for coverage.
Rich, Tim, what do you guys think?
You guys are the medical experts, so I defer to you guys. Sounds reasonable.
Move to approve policy.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
All right, and to clarify, we were voting on both, right, guys?
Yes.
JLCD and JLCDC?
And for further clarification, did that include the modification of nurse contractor?
Yes, please.
Thank you.
Yes, we accepted that suggestion.
Okay.
Yes. Correct, guys?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Video surveillance?
Thank you.
There's another one that'll be quicker if you want to get rid of another guest.
Yeah, but
Okay.
these folks are here, come
Okay.
on.
All right,
We'll look 90 seconds.
And Chief Lennon was here early.
all right, okay.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.
He's hanging out surveilling the parking lot in the end of the thunderstorm.
Okay. On this draft memorandum of agreement, I think we're very close to mutually agreeable language. I think really the only outstanding issue is what I'm referring to right now is access when school personnel are not present. It's the, what used to be number 2 on the list of items in section 4 that's on page 35 of the packet you have in front of you. You have 2 versions of potential language that could go into that, which we haven't had a chance to talk about directly, but we have shared with each other. So yesterday, Chiefs Lennon and Bruno met and suggested this language in this email. It says, in the event that the system is accessed in accordance with the agreement outside of traditional school hours, the entity accessing the system shall notify the principal or the designated school contact of the affected school as soon as practical. An alternate language, language I proposed, we're both, I think all 3 of us trying to work on the same problem, which is if it's accessed when school personnel are not present, trying to make sure that the communication loop is closed. Like it's going to be a real reason, right? Like something's going on, and we want to make sure that the school personnel don't get caught out there. Like for example, if there was a major vandalism incident and arrests are made or whatever, we don't want the principal standing in the car line in the morning answering a bunch of questions about the arrests that were made last night, and that being their like first point of contact being found out. So that language was proposed by the chiefs. I'd also developed this. It kind of achieves the same thing. The other thing that I just did with this was kind of like add some language that kind of indicated the types of things that might cause you to flip on the cameras, because, you know, the way I'm thinking about this is you don't write the policies for the people who are at the table at the time, you write them for the future. Like, and I think these are consistent with the kinds of things that we were talking about because you want to do it. Maybe not an exhaustive list, but I put things like active threats or intruders on the school ground, natural disaster regarding coordinated response events involving fire or release of hazardous substances, significant medical emergencies regarding law enforcement situations involving violent acts, a hostage crisis, or other incidents imposing immediate threat to safety of individuals or property, or situations where students are reported missing and there are concerns of abduction occurring on school property. That's a list actually that I got from another one of the MOUs. So those are the two. I think that's really just the only thing that's missing. Once we figure out what we want to put in there, we would have.
So what you're proposing, these are two different versions of the two.
Correct.
One has the principal being notified and one has you.
Correct.
Just so I can be clear, so where it says emergency situations on the current one, would that remain?
Yes.
And then be a number 2, which would be different?
Correct.
Wouldn't take- okay.
Correct. Emergency situations was accepted in the first version.
Mhm.
It was only the thing, if you're looking at this packet on page 35, where it said after hours or suspicious activity,
Right.
that's what we're trying to replace with something different.
So, number 1, I think it's pretty tight, as it is, the accepted version right now. And the only thing is, like, would number 2 be different when school is closed? Like, it would just be a different, because one of the things we gotta look at is, this is gonna be accessed probably by dispatch. They have a lot of employees. They kinda need a very bright and simple rule. Basically, what they're gonna do is there's gonna be an event, they're gonna have to interpret it in real time. Might be an emergency, might be something happening. They may not even know when they get the call if it fits under one of these categories until they turn it on. So it's gonna be challenging for them. And I think it needs to be kind of bright line 24/7. Like, I don't think that, they may not even know if the school's open right now or there's things going on. So even the after hours is gonna be a little squishy for them.
Right. 'Cause their
Yeah.
hours of operation change every day.
Yeah, so it's gonna be a little, so, I mean, I was just thinking that maybe, just throw it out there, is number 1 would be good, as is, because they would have a bright line, they know what's gonna happen. And number 2 would be a note, just a notification, and who would we notify and when? I don't know if that works, everything else is, I have different opinions of everything, but it's a good policy, it's had major changes over the last few months, but we're here, and I think we're pretty close.
Yeah.
Is there an appetite to change the difference of definition depending on the time of the day, how we would access?
Well, I think the time of day issue really comes into what's triggering it. Like, if it's happening when school's operating in any way, whether it's the school day, after the school day, while there's sports, whatever, this is being initiated, I would imagine, because someone at the school is calling 911 saying, we've got a problem, right?
Yes.
If it's after hours, it's a little unclear how the whole thing gets rolling to me.
Mhm.
Like, someone at dispatch gets some kind of notification, it's not a 911.
Mhm.
I mean, it could be maybe from someone who just happens to be on campus who notices something. But it could be like intelligence from, someone they were interviewing or whatever that says something's gonna happen at the school tonight,
So I think that would be a little different, and I agree. In other words, okay, here's a perfect example. We're coming up on a time of the season where I can almost guarantee you we're going to get a call, the school resource is gonna call me and says, I'm being told tonight, somewhere around between midnight and 3, there's going to be an event, they're going to vandalize something in the back, that's what we're hearing.
Right.
That would have to be something that we'd have to say, under number 4, that's another set of circumstances where we may ask you, or the designated contact is, would you like us to turn the system on tonight and put that up on our big thing and watch it? But that would have to be something we'd have to get permission for. That wouldn't be an event in progress. You know what I mean? I think that would be something we have to get, I'd interpret that as something we have to get permission for. So I think that would kind of be covered under the policy, but here's a perfect example. I was listening to the radio a week or 2 ago, it was late at night, and they got a call that, I think it was like 2nd floor alarm, multiple motion detectors. well, the best thing to do would be, it was like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night, I think it was.
Yeah.
Turning that on to see, well, is there somebody in the hallway? I mean, 11 o'clock, that would be like a good thing. Or, you know, another thing we get after hours is, and I've this has happened to us a few times, somebody calls 911 and says, the person's injured on the athletic field. Which athletic field is it? Well, I'm walking back to my car, we're not pinging the location, so we don't know. And the person goes, I don't know, I'm here from Hopkinton on a team, I don't know.
Right,
And we have cameras that could maybe figure that out.
right,
But that would be an in-progress thing. So I
Right.
think what we really, we wanna make sure we know, we just want, and I think the thing covers it, the policy, if an event in progress, which is covered by number 1, defined, we turn the system on, as soon as it's over, we turn it off. And that's basically would be it. I think that it's important that you brought up is after hours, like if it's not that, we at least notify somebody. I think the next business day would be good unless it's an emergency, but that's stuff that would, I think, wouldn't matter if there was video cameras either.
right,
But if like the next day, through the school resource officer or somebody lets the contact know, yes, we had a call at 3 o'clock in the morning, we went down there, we turned on the system, you know, just to let you know.
Right.
Would be something like that. I don't know if that's palatable or,
well, in both of those situations, I think it's yes. I mean, I know I'll have some like personal bias, because the language I worked out. But I think both of those situations are explicitly covered under the language I suggested.
yes.
The first one is an intruder, which is listed,
Yep.
right? The second one was a medical event, which is listed. So I'm trying to do the same thing I think that you're doing, is saying, okay, for dispatch, these are the types of things we're thinking about,
Okay.
you know?
Would there be a situation where number 1 would apply and number 2 wouldn't? In other words, I just don't wanna put the dispatchers in a position where they're sitting there in real time and they have to make a decision. They're just not gonna be able to differentiate between 1 and 2.
Oh, I see what you're saying. So,
Yeah.
the way I read that is that these are ors, they're not ands. So you could have an emergency situation, or you could have an after-hours situation. Or you could have a system maintenance, or you could have another circumstance. And the reason I think that they're ors, between 1 and 2, for example, is 1 is talking about significant loss of life of a bunch of people, really, potentially. So that's during the day, or during time when there's a bunch of people on campus. The after hours, I think, is not an emergency in that sense, because there's not a bunch of people around. You know, there may be an individual emergency, but it's not like one of these things talking about, you know, the health of the students, the staff, and other occupants, because there are no staff, students, and other occupants in the number 2 situation.
But so on a Friday night football game, for instance, when you have, that really falls under number 1 then, because
Correct.
we're gonna consider that then school hours, because in a
Correct.
school sanctioned event, that could be one of those
Correct,
bad emergency
Right.
situations.
exactly.
And I think, I think number 2 is, like you said, or situations, they're not always ands. I think we need to kind of just hammer down that notification piece too. Again, if we get the call at 3 o'clock in the morning for the alarm on the 2nd floor, the dispatcher brings up that camera to look and make sure there is not 2 kids running through the hallway. I don't think you want to call at 3 o'clock in the morning for that incident. That's not.
Correct.
Now, if it were something other, if it were 1 o'clock in the morning and
Someone got hurt on campus.
somebody called and said, hey, we were, not that they should be here, but what if? And they call 911, hey, there's somebody in your parking lot and there's a car here with 3 kids in it and there's bad stuff happening. And that is clearly the outside the scope, and a notification needs to be made, and we need to figure out, and we can come up with what that notification process is too.
Right.
I think we're trying to do that without even a camera issue. Like, let's say we had no cameras.
Right,
They would just, we do that anyways.
right,
We would.
We should endeavor to.
right.
It's, the only thing, like I said, is I don't know how to get there, but it's, the dispatchers are just, they're not gonna be looking at this or trying to differentiate or trying to do any of this. They're just gonna be told, you know, okay, read this, but they're gonna internalize, if there's an emergency or a public safety event, I'm gonna turn it on. I don't know if they're gonna get this deep in the weeds on a Friday night.
Right.
But so having it in the policy is, it's gonna be, you just understand where I'm coming from. They're just,
But you,
operationally, it's just gonna be, it's gonna be a little tough.
right. I
What
understand.
about, instead of you having the word including there, John, put, for example? I'm looking at the one that you wrote here, that's in the email, you know what I mean? 'Cause,
Yep.
like, you've got a list of situations here, but I think that it's, I don't think it's possible to generate an all-inclusive list of situations. And I think that Chief Leonard's making a good point that whichever dispatcher happens to be on it that night, there's different levels of sophistication there, and so they're not gonna open up the book and go to this page, they probably don't do that with every call. But if we if we can leave all those bullet points in, but instead of including, we can put for example, so that anyone who is then reading the policy can at least have a feeling for what the intent is. You know what I mean? Like what, what everybody kind of intends to be going on, kind of thing. Because I think you'd like to keep those things in there, right?
Including,
I'm sorry, that sounded really good, what you first said before. What did you want to replace instead of including?
Instead of including, put for example. So then his bullet list there is a list of examples of circumstances that would, justify turning the system on, keeping in mind that, I don't think there's any way this list is all inclusive, right?
No, and you're right.
Suspected alien landing in the
Yeah.
parking lot, right?
I look at
Well,
including,
that
for
might be what the
example.
call is, right? But we don't know what it really is, right?
You
It could
get
be.
calls like that.
Yeah.
Does
Right,
happen.
We had a plan, closed the school a few years ago.
I look at including and for example as being the same in my mind.
For example, if we could put that, I might just put some people that are gonna have to read this later, might be more palatable for them.
Okay.
Is for example okay? I'm not,
Yeah,
I say it's not, we're getting in semantics, but.
I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I also think that, really what you're talking about gets down to an element of the policy which is the next piece, which is the training, the system maintenance and training. Like, whenever we have a thing, like people don't pull out their policy manual or their MOUs and start looking through and find out. They've got flip charts, they've got little things they go to, so I imagine what someone is going to do for the dispatch is create a little checklist of, these are the things, that you're gonna wanna be looking for when you're thinking about activating this system.
There is their protocols,
Right.
but I've gotta tell you, the real world of this is, especially if it's during the day, and there's a lot going on, they're gonna get an emergency, they're gonna dispatch police, fire, EMS, the school resource is gonna be talking, potentially the school's gonna be on the emergency channel talking to them, and especially gonna be 911 calls, and the police are gonna be asking, and then they're gonna be activating the system. And it's gonna be a lot for them to handle, and they're probably not gonna be, but that's probably gonna be a situation where I would assume it's gonna be one of these bullet points. Yeah.
But during the
But
day,
during
none of this stuff even applies,
Mhm.
because during the day, it's like, you got a call from a principal, your SRO, or someone else saying, we have a problem, we need help,
Mhm.
and that's the trigger.
Yes.
The thing we're trying to do is, how do we define the trigger when there is no one calling, saying, we have a problem?
Yeah, I can see that.
Right.
I'm just trying to let you know how this is operated, they're
Yeah.
gonna, because they don't, like I said, there's different levels of sophistication,
Yeah.
there's different levels of interpretation of what they mean, so that they're gonna read this and we're gonna have to try to drill down to them. And I think one of the things the challenge on our part is gonna be, is that the schools are sensitive about, it's a special population, they only wanna put down when these things happen, so you gotta kinda know that it's not just willy-nilly, you can't just turn it on because you feel like it. It's gonna have to be for these purposes, and you're gonna have to do it, and we have to shut it off when it's over, and if it's after hours, we need to let somebody know. We have to follow the protocol of letting someone know. Now, with that, it says that the superintendent will be notified immediately is there do we wanna work on that, or?
Yeah, I think we could come up with some language, I mean, depending on the nature of the event, like if it was a false alarm at 3 AM, say.
You don't wanna know, you don't wanna know.
Yes.
Well, but, you know, this then gets back to the operational, right? It's like, you know, if we start, how can we write conditions as to which point you'll be notified immediately, or you'll be notified when the sun comes up in the morning?
If John's held hostage,
What's that?
if you're held hostage, then like.
Well, so that was the other thing I was thinking as I was reading it, but I was letting you guys discuss that. It might be good to include a first and then backup contact person. So you might have yourself, and then you might include the building principal or the assistant superintendent as the backup person, just in case you don't wake up. And the backup person would be someone that has your cell phone number so that they could be,
Yep.
you know, so.
Could you use or designate?
And we thought that could be something that we work on and after as that list, because that list too can change year to year or term to term sometimes when people change, cell phone numbers change. The priority list on that contact list may change for different, whether it's
Well, yeah,
this school
dispatch
or
is
their
gonna have
school.
to have a list, have a contact list.
Correct, and they have a
that's
site
updated.
file system, they have ways to have those lists. I have one for the water district in Hampton for the 40 homes that need, if the water goes out, dispatch knows, if one of those people call, that's a town problem versus, no, everybody else, that's a you problem, call the well company, you know. So I think that could be handled, and that list could be sort of a living document, if you will, where if it's an incident that happens at Minichog, it's going to be these folks and in this, and then it could also be even an email contact as like the backup to it, right, where there's always a follow-up piece from the dispatch center in some case.
How about if we say expeditiously instead of immediately, and then,
Yeah.
you know, there can be some, discretion around,
Yeah.
you know, what's expedient given the event.
I mean, okay, yeah.
And
I put as soon as practical, but then when practical might mean notifying you at 3 o'clock in the morning, you know, for
Right.
nothing. So you're right, I don't know what your suggested language would be.
I was saying instead of immediately, just put it expeditiously, so if, you have a very serious event and someone can make a judgment, expedient means he needs to know or she needs to know right away.
Yeah, expedient, according to the seriousness of the event, and, something
Yeah.
like that. This is, I don't want to go up to tangent, but this is challenging because we have this with all of our departments, DPW, fire, water, just building inspector, all of them have these, and we call them at 3 in the morning sometimes, and they blow up. Why would you possibly call me? Because you said you want, and I don't want to. And then the following week, why wasn't I, so we're having this with all of our, it's a challenge across the board. I'm not saying that you're
Same thing
unreasonable,
goes
but
on with the emergency department at the hospital and our consult line.
People try to follow the policy, and they use their best judgment in the
Yeah.
situation, and it's not following the policy. What happens? Not only they get fined or arrested, you're always trying to do their best.
yeah, we try to get it to it later, but yeah.
Maybe review it later on. So I assume something would go up. In practicality, you had to do something that's not in the policy to save lives. I assume you do.
Yes, I'm sure that they would use common sense and good
Yeah.
judgment to try to do that.
So right now, is there any policy or any kind of judgment criteria? Because right now, the cameras aren't hooked up. You get called at 2 o'clock in the morning for some guy in the parking lot doing something he's not supposed to, or, breaking a window or something. Somebody reports it, and you send units to respond. When would you be notifying the superintendent?
So probably through the school resource officer in the morning. School resource officer, let's say it's on a school day, he comes in at 7 AM, they say, hey, Dan, this happened last night, can you make the notifications you feel should be, he'll notify the principal, or the superintendent if it's the, so whatever, he kind of knows the ins and outs, and he'll make that kind of notification. Now, there's different times too, and we just dealt with one of these 2-3 months ago. 10 o'clock at night, I get a call at home, there's something going on. I'm like, call Dan Ryan at home, get this, and start calling the superintendent, the principal. We need to start notifying people, wake them up. We gotta deal with this. So it is kind of a judgment call on the seriousness, but we'll do both, depending on how serious it is. And again, that's obviously a judgment call.
Are you comfortable with that, John?
I am, so what
Okay.
we could do is put the for example in, and we could put, expedient according to the seriousness of the situation in the other section. And then,
But for example, instead of including,
yep,
yeah, I mean,
And
and
you want
then,
expedient or in a timely manner according to the seriousness of the situation?
that works too.
that works.
Expediently has more of a, do it quickly more quickly as possible, it has a different connotation.
Well, that's what I mean, right? So it's like, you know, it's, you know,
If you read the word expediently, that kind of says do it quickly, as opposed to when we get around to it.
somebody who just fell asleep in their car in the parking lot, probably doesn't need to get a phone call in the middle of the night.
No, I could just.
Timely
No, it would-
notification for that would be before the kids start showing up for school in the morning.
Or, you know what, I bet what would happen in a lot of those cases, and maybe this will just become acceptable or not, if not, we'll change it. Dan Ryan would send an email to the superintendent and the principal. Yeah, we had a intoxicated person pass on their vehicle in the parking lot last night, and we handled it. You know, that would probably be the crux of it.
In terms of severity, if there was some serious vandalism and damage done that you want to have cleaned up before the kids arrive, that would be a case where
So-
you would notify.
We would notify regardless of the cameras. If the cameras never existed or they were not an issue, we would do that anyways. It has happened. It happens now, sometimes you'll get graffiti, which is not appropriate. It needs to come down within hours, things like that. We've done before.
I think most
That
importantly,
covers it.
John wants to be notified before anything shows up on Facebook.
So do I.
Because we've had
Only
those
we can do that
situations,
all the
right?
time.
Yeah, if only, yeah, and I'm the same way. Please don't get me in a situation. I tell them, please, if it's happening, please let me know, so I'm not getting phone calls or reading it in the newspaper. I wake up in the morning and I'm reading about something that's, you know, but I don't know, I don't want to see, so I can get in front of it, so I understand.
That is one thing, that's the main thing. The other thing that I'm trying to guard against in the future, I mean, this is not anyone present, but just thinking about the future is, I don't want the superintendent ever to find out just by looking at the log of access that the thing was turned on 50 times overnight and they had no idea that this was happening, you know, because there could be someone who has a problem with a citizen or ex-wife or whatever,
Oh, yeah,
you know, you don't
absolutely.
want that happening.
Yeah, oh yeah, and it happens.
Right.
It happens. It really does. And there's consequences for that.
Right.
Now, the log of access, so like the electronic medical record system at the hospital, if you go into a patient's chart that's not been assigned to you, it asks you for your relationship, the reason, chart review, consult, whatever. The log of access on this system, will there be like a little comment field or they're supposed to put in, so that if God forbid communication broke down and then you looked at the logs and you saw, oh my God, the system was turned on, and is there a place for them to put a note? We heard there was a guy with a gun in the parking lot.
From experience I have with it, there is not. It's basically so this system is doing thousands of functions a day, and when you run these reports, if you run them for like an hour, the report goes from here to the football stadium. So they're really particular and they're really good, so you really gotta drill down. There isn't like a, not that I know of anyways, there isn't, like if you open up a feed, like right now there's 156 feeds going at the police station. So, yeah, and this would, not saying these would be turned on right here, but they're accessible and they're recording right now, so they're logging activity. So that there isn't really anywhere where you can, that I know of, you can go in and put like a comment. But it is there. If you go to that feed, let's say, like right now there's 10 feeds up on like a board, you go to that feed and you drill into it and you bring it, you enhance it, you bring it up as a live feed, it will say that you did that user so-and-so expanded the feed for camera 10 at the spec pond, and that will have it that was accessed.
Okay.
But the tracking is just, it's extensive in the system.
Do we have a draft that we're happy with?
Yeah, so what I can do is I can put that language in here where we have the crossed out. It actually says number 1, the second number 1 on page 35. And then I think everything else is kind of okay.
Yeah, we'll figure it out, yeah, it's,
Okay. All right, so in the blue crossed out section, that has a 1 there that says after hours or suspicious activity. We'll now read what is in, Rich and Tim, in this email from Gmail chief starts with access when school personnel are not present, the parties recognize, and then the including is going to be switched to for example, and then superintendent, and then there's going to be the specification of a backup contact at your whoever you want it to be.
And some language around timely according to the
Yes.
severity. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Are we in a position where someone can make a motion to approve this?
Make a motion to approve it?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
all right, excellent.
Thank you.
Okay.
Policies, go to the school. Yay.
Does it have to go to the full school
Yes,
committee
yes.
now, or is it?
It will, so any policy change that happens has to be read at a full school committee meeting 3 times. Now, usually the chair, the chair of the subcommittee will read just the title of the policy, although everything is will be in the packet that the school committee gets. So sometimes they will raise their hand and say, wait, I want to discuss this or discuss that. But otherwise, I'll just read it, and then once I've read it, so 3 meetings, once I've read it at the 3rd meeting, the school committee can then vote and adopt it as a policy.
Okay.
So,
There's a time on this.
There is, yeah,
But this is not going live
yes, and there is a lot
tomorrow
of,
anyway,
there's
because
a
of the
lot of,
back end.
yeah, there's a lot of technical behind the scenes things to making this happen, so it's not, we wouldn't be before September for getting this into effect anyway, so it's not a huge priority.
Thank you.
the policy does not mandate that the connection is there, so.
Right.
Yes, the connection's
Doesn't-
gonna be contingent,
It
so.
doesn't, just
Yeah.
says,
Yeah.
if there is one, this is how we use it.
Sure.
While you're here, I did ask the chief a question about polling places, and he did some research. There is no law regarding cameras in polling places,
Oh, okay,
so.
It's just silent. Massachusetts is just silent.
okay.
So, our town clerk looked into it too. She's online with the Town Clerks Association, and they kind of talked, and she put it out to the group, and she said they came back, and the smart people that know all about that, and they came back and said Massachusetts is silent on
Okay.
it. So,
I know that in East Long Meadow, Birchland Park School is the only now polling location. Jean Quagley is the clerk there, and there are several cameras in that space because it's gymnasium, cafetorium, all in one space. And those cameras were always live through all voting, all elections, and it was never an issue.
Okay.
So there are other places that's been in effect for a long time.
Okay,
Thank you.
cool. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all, thanks for your
Thank you very
time.
much. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
No
Well,
problem.
we'll see you on, we'll see you for the car loop,
Yes,
Yes.
next Thursday,
Thursday the 28th.
Thursday the 28th, I'll be
But
here.
that's a little bit later because,
Yep.
7:30.
Mhm.
That one will be in the IRC.
My understanding is that briefly that's going well, but at least short term,
Yeah.
the few days we have to look at it, so we'll talk about it next week.
No, I'm excited to hear about this. I'm even more excited to stop hearing complaints about it.
Yes.
If we can figure that out.
Car line issue?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna use car line issue in Green Meadows as well,
Want to
so.
grab 'em?
Yeah.
Which one's for Doug?
Which one's for Doug? Oh,
Uh,
for sure.
Surplusing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was a little concerned reading that policy. I'm like, if the budget's tight, are we gonna start hawking stuff in the school?
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you.
It's mainly just about disposing of things, because you're supposed to have a process for disposing of things with value. You can't really just throw them out.
It was quite a long written process.
I copied from another policy in another place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's in there if you want to look at it while they're reading the.
Wait, was that a policy or a separate discussion?
It's a policy, it's DN. It's on
There we go, there it is.
6.
All right, so we're gonna discuss policy DN, fiscal management disposition of surplus items.
The judgment, is this cumbersome, or is it, it's gonna be a smooth process?
It's actually pretty smooth. It just sort of formalizes things, so then we have, I think what it allows for by setting an actual policy, is it makes it clear what people are supposed to do. Because I think that in the buildings, you have stuff like school desks or chairs that maybe need to be, gotten rid of, do they have value, do they not have value? There's supposed to be, people may or may not know that there's a process for getting rid of things that might have residual value or not. So by, putting policy together just gives a clear operating procedure for people to
Spells
do.
it out pretty clearly.
It's, the form, I don't know if I gave you a copy of the form, but there's a form that basically says,
I think you did
what's the date, what's the stuff,
this one.
what value do you think it has? The other thing that this allows for is, as part of the process of disposing of items, if they have value, you can't just sell them to somebody on the side of the road kind of thing. You can make any arrangement you want with another municipal or governmental entity. So if we want to sell 5,000 school chairs to Ludlow for $1, we can do it. There's no constraints or barriers to us doing that. However, if you want to open them up for people to buy, you can't make an inside deal with like, oh, the staff person's like, oh, I'd really love that. I'll buy that from you. I'll pay the district $50 for that or whatever. You have to have a methodology for the public at large to be able to place a bid or offer a competing price. So you have to have a competitive process. There's online websites, there's more than one we can use for that kind of thing. It makes it really easy. Even if there are staff that want to bid on something, they just go onto that account, log in as create a user account and bid just like anybody else does. Experience in my former district with this, it is fascinating, things that will generate revenue for the district a little bit, not tons of money, but things that the district would be sometimes paying to get rid of. People will purchase, computers being a perfect example, or electronics. If you have, we tend to sort of cycle Chromebooks in big batches. If you have a lot of 250 Chromebooks of all the same stripe and model, there are people that will be willing to purchase those and pay. They may pay $1 each, they may pay $2 each, but you go through a bid process, and so it's a competitive and public process. And that can be helpful. And we're not paying to have things removed sometimes. Usually you put in that, pick up, everything as is. Pick up and transportation of the equipment is entirely on the buyer, so that they know all of that going in. So it can be really a fairly low effort thing for the district, and potentially generate a small amount of revenue, but not really much. But more often you just know that you've complied with state law and thoughtfully got rid of something without any hint of favoritism or anything like that you might definitely want to avoid.
So you could have a district yard sale if you wanted to, as long as it was publicly advertised.
Yeah, so, and that's what some districts do and some places do. Municipalities do this as well. They'll collect a bunch of things that they want to sell, and they'll advertise the paper, and they literally buy an auctioneer for the day, and they come out and they auction stuff off, and you bid on that, just like an estate sale. You can do that. That's a lot more work.
Oh, it has to be auctioned off. You can't like have a yard sale with prices on.
No, I think you have to have competitive bidding in the, to maximize the sort of potential value of anything you might have. So you do have to have, an opportunity for that, so.
You'll probably pay more money to the auctioneer than you'll probably collect from the
And that's where the online auction sites that specifically work with municipalities and government entities are really handy for that, because they are global, quite frankly, and can be quite beneficial for that. So it just sort of, in some ways, it reduces some burden for us, but mostly it just gives a clear process that's helpful.
Okay.
And it even has a form attached.
Yeah,
Yes, I saw the form.
not my form, I changed, I think, the header. Or I hope I did. When borrowing this, just to.
So move to accept the policy?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Look at that, we have a yard sale policy.
Okay.
Thanks, Doug.
Welcome.
You.
All right, which one do we want to do next?
We're just doing an order now.
You want to do them in order now, okay. All right, so ECAB, minor edits I see, John, right?
Yes. The last version of the policy
Where are we now?
is page
Page
3.
Page 3, policy ECAB.
It was really about making sure that if your group is signing up for basically renting a space, that the space is reserved for them. But the policy was written in such a way that it could be interpreted that the staff who need to work there are not allowed to be in the space. So this revision just allows the staff who need to work in the building to also be in the building.
Sounds reasonable.
Okay,
I move to approve this policy change.
Second?
all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, all right. EEA. All right, so someone who's 17 can be a bus driver now?
No,
Which,
Because
well
you
then
can't
why
get-
is no person under 18 crossed out?
because you have to be 21 in order to get a license.
Which,
Superfluous.
ah,
That's-
okay then. That does cover it, okay then.
They can drive without a license at 17, but.
Well, that's true, is there anything that says here you have to be licensed?
Who are properly licensed by the state, number 4.
Okay, cool. No. All right, otherwise, there's really minimal changes here.
And also, the certificate of freedom from tuberculosis is no longer required, no longer state law.
What do you think of that, Dr. Ferrazzi?
We move to accept these changes.
Second?
Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, next policy. Oh, we did that one, okay. Next policy after that, we're now skipping to JFBB.
What page?
That is
Page
10.
number 10. Isn't it? Yeah.
Page 10.
The only change in this one is it says that siblings of students who are already enrolled in the district receive priority admission for school choice. Essentially, they don't have to go through the lottery. That is in the law, it always has been, and it's been our practice, it just was never put in the policy.
Ooh, okay.
Move to accept that change.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No, okay. All right, next policy, KBG. Parent Advisory Compacts.
Okay. This one is somewhat fascinating. Usually they're not, but this one has a story behind it. First of all, the change on page 12 is not a big deal. Adding membership shall be offered to all parents of children with disabilities and other interested parties. That has always been the rule back when I was a special education director, so I think we just wanted to have that because I think there probably, and historically has been some concern about who may be a part of the PAC, basically anyone can be a part of the PAC, that clarifies. And then we get into issues around bylaws. So that starts on page 13. It says that the CPAC shall independently establish bylaws regarding officers and operational procedures in the course of its duties, shall receive assistance from the school committee without charge upon reasonable notice, subject to the availability of staff and resources. So that is a new part of the policy that says that PACs need to have some kind of rules of the road. They can't just sort of meet informally, but there has to be a procedure around how they do their business. And the school committee has to provide them with some help and guidance if they
What does assistance imply? Does it imply financial assistance or?
it doesn't really say what kind of assistance. This is in the section of operating procedures and course of duty, so I think some of it is technical assistance. I also think some of it is just assistance around being able to hold their meetings, being given space in buildings, being given access to staff such as people like Josh for expertise. So I think it's that type of assistance.
Are they subject to open meeting law?
I am so glad you asked. That is the fascinating part. The next paragraph talks about DESI needing to follow the guidance, or the PACs need to be following the guidance of DESI as modified by the Massachusetts Attorney General with respect to paragraph B of the open meeting law. This all came up in the case of a PAC election. I think it's also related to officers, where there was an outcome that I believe someone was unhappy with, and the person filed an open meeting law violation saying that election should not have taken place because the PAC didn't properly post its meeting. And if you go to the DESI guidance, even to this day, it says that PACs are subject to the open meeting law. They need to post their meetings 48 hours in advance. They need to post their agendas, the whole 9 yards. They can't talk about
Not 3
things.
days in advance, 48 hours?
48 hours, yeah.
Okay.
Can't talk about things in between meetings. However, so when this open meeting law complaint was ruled on by the Attorney General, she said, no, PACs, that this was never meant for PACs. This was meant for political bodies with decision-making authority. This is meant for things like city councils, select boards, school committees. It was not meant for parent groups. So this modification here of the policy is basically saying we as a school committee accept the Attorney General's authority to modify DESI's guidance to PACs, saying that they don't have to post their meetings publicly and follow the open meeting law. So that's what that is. Then the rest of this is a large expansion of the duties of EL PACs. Basically what this is sort of modeling the EL PAC duties on the already established duties of the CPACs. We don't have enough ELs in the district in order to fall under the requirement of an EL PAC at this time, but do recommend updating the policy so that we're in alignment should we reach that threshold. Yeah.
Go back just to, before we flip the page, whether we want to say it or not, and I'm not against it. When I read a guy shall receive assistance, I immediately thought we have to provide a line item in our budget for that PAC. Do we want to be clear about that or not? So I read the assistance.
Technically, we do.
You have
Our
one
department
yeah.
funds, yep, so professional development or.
But fund the CPAC itself.
Mhm.
There you go.
Their membership. We fund the membership of our CPAC, with the Federation for Children with Special Needs, we provide snacks and waters at each of the meetings for participants. And this year we funded 2 professional development opportunities for families and our staff.
So that's you, so but it says from the school committee, does that mean we're really doing it through your budget, so it's kind of like this?
Mhm.
That's fine. Thank you.
And we give access to our spaces without charge.
And we also give Josh's time
Mhm.
and time of other staff.
We're fortunate that one of our CPAC officers is also an attorney, and so she was able to establish their bylaws this year without our assistance.
Oh, cool. The other change here is, in the old policy, it talks about if you ever have a PAC that becomes defunct, then you establish an interim PAC for the purpose of creating a new PAC. But in this policy, it just says the school committee can skip the PAC, part of creating an interim PAC to establish a new PAC and just go right to creating a PAC.
Please, does PAC still have the same definition, political action committee?
Parent Advisory Committee.
Parent advisory committees. How many PACs do we have? One.
Are there schools with multiple PACs?
Mhm. Last district I was in had a special ed PAC and an EL PAC.
Mhm.
Based on needs. Okay.
I think it's 100 students who are identified as English learners or multilingual learners is the threshold for an ELPAC.
All right, what do you guys think?
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve the changes.
Second.
All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Nope. Okay. All right, big changes to this policy. JKAA, timeout, seclusion, and physical restraint of students. So that even the title has changed.
Yes,
Mhm.
and I have to say that yesterday we got a version of this from our attorney who does our special education work, and she's recommending some modifications to the modifications that the MASC put out there. So if you could turn to this one that doesn't have any color on it, but is also called JKAA. I'll sort of point those out when they come up and we can decide what we want to do.
And no page numbers on this one. It's an addition to the packet.
Here we go.
Does this policy apply to all kids or to just special education?
All kids.
All students.
It
So
comes
this is unmarked, but this is a clean draft of what our policy would potentially look like if we accepted our attorney's input.
correct.
This is
And-
state law now?
It's, well, it's based on, the law changes in August and regulations, I believe, I don't know if I've seen them, but we'll be getting some regulations if we don't have them already in order to conform to the law. And so this basically is where I started with the yellow, because basically it was such a rewrite, I had to basically start all over again. And so the first change Attorney Meinalt is recommending is in the first paragraph. The MASC version talks about using methods used in emergency situations as last resort as defined below, in compliance with the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education guidelines and other, only after other lawful unless intrusive alternatives. The attorney's recommendation is to cite 603 CMR 46, in addition to the guidance from the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education.
Okay.
So that's the first thing, I guess.
Is there any reason that we would want to argue with our attorney on that?
I don't think so.
Okay. No, I see, but yeah, there are rewords in this, okay.
Okay, then it is, the next change comes right above the list of safeguards 1 through 7, which on our packet is page 18 and 19. Again, the main difference is she is recommending that we cite 603 CMR 46 once again. She does put a few other words in there, but I think the main essence of her edit is to cite the law an additional time.
Okay.
Thoughts on that?
I don't have any issues with her rewords.
All I know is that just, I need to state this, of course, times have changed. So I ran an after-school program 3 hours every day in the city of Chicago. These were tough kids, K to 6. The first day, they said when I got there, what you do is if they misbehave, you give them 5 minutes timeout. That's no good, 5 minutes they didn't care about. I took the toughest kid, sat there for the whole 3 hours, and after that, I never had to give another timeout. The kids listened, I could do anything I want with them, field trips, and they knew I meant business, and they behaved perfectly till the end of the year, and became really good friends with some of these kids. I don't know what they went on to do, maybe they're kind of jail now, but they were, I just thought it was an easy way to do it. It didn't hurt anybody, and they want to really be with their friends and setting an example like that. So I understand that it's special needs kids, but maybe times have changed, but it certainly worked, and it was not capital punishment or anything, and it made being working with inner city kids in Chicago easy.
Mm-hmm.
So that said, I guess the law changed and things are different.
Well, I mean, this, just so that you know, this really was in response to some articles that were published in the Globe last year about some abuses, and so as a result, we're getting much more restrictive regulations and law. That's really what it is.
I don't think we have the ability to implement these. We don't have the space. We don't have the personnel. And we don't have the time to do the appropriate training, because there should be somebody trained in restraint in every single building.
There
We
is.
have that. In each of the 6 schools,
In each of them.
multiple staff.
I mean, I'll just opine here. I think the sad part about this change in regulation is it's likely that we're gonna have a greater need for restraint without the ability to use seclusion as has been done in the past. Because some students who you might have been able to get to calm down by just saying, why don't you just sit there for a few minutes and gather yourself together. Now we're not gonna be able to do that, and the behavior may continue to escalate to the point where restraint occurs. So our plan is actually to increase our availability of restraint trained staff for next year.
That's pretty sad.
Yep.
You can't even seclude a kid for 5 minutes?
Not without meeting the prerequisites, which include certification from a medical doctor, certification from a licensed mental health physician, a parent, and principal. In writing prior to it happening. So the essential answer is no. It will make it extraordinarily challenging.
And so seclusion is where there were abuses before in the past?
Yeah, I mean, there certainly were some programs not in this district. There certainly were some programs where students ended up being placed in situations they shouldn't have been in without the supervision they should have had. And as a result, basically the sort of response is all districts are losing the ability to implement that almost under any kind of circumstance. With any kind of-
Consider to isolate, is a corner of your room considered seclusion?
Do you want to talk to that, Josh? You've been through multiple trainings on this.
So, the department has not issued additional guidance to answer those exact questions which we had posed. So as of April 14th, they were releasing a frequently asked questions document, which hasn't come to existence, and their training modules for us, not just us, the state, have also not been released and are not anticipated to come out until July or August. And our responsibility is to provide training to staff prior to school starting. And so our current philosophy is to do that training on essentially right after convocation on our return to school, which will not be super
I
uplifting.
wonder if this would, so back in the day when I taught, I knew this one kid was cheating off other kids' papers, so I made him take his test by himself in the corner, facing the other direction.
Mhm.
And he didn't like it, but he wasn't cheating anymore off other people's test papers. Would that be allowed? It's like in a regular science class.
So
You know,
the current guidance from the department is really around students' ability to leave a given area and a student's ability, part of it is based on their perception, so their perception of if they can leave an area. And then the second piece is around if they're dysregulated. So if it's dysregulated, so if a child is upset and needs to calm down, essentially, that's when you have to worry about whether or not you're secluding a student versus if they're calm and you needed them to go take a test in a separate area of the room, say, I don't know, on the other side of a divider or something by themselves. That would not be considered seclusion because they're not upset. If you had a student who was upset and you said, go take a break on the beanbag chair, that's over behind a divider, and they don't think they can leave that space, then that potentially could be considered a seclusion. And so that's sort of why we asked for more guidance from the department around, is that actually what you meant? Or do you mean in a completely separate room, away from all individuals other than somebody who's monitoring you, that kind of timeout, taking a break? And so that's the guidance they haven't, they've been avoiding it, in my opinion. And so,
I think that's critical because it means that, you know, there is no real objective standard for what seclusion is. It's subjective. You know, if two people can be in the same space, for one student it could be seclusion, for another student it could not be seclusion based on their internal psychological disposition.
yes.
Now, is the language that they have to be in a well-lit and ventilated area?
No classes.
So we can't do that in our middle school.
There we go.
So, no, but, so typically, not always, typically, the only buildings that have timeout spaces are our elementary schools. So we don't have a designated timeout space in our middle school, obviously, because we have no space, or in our high school, because the students are just too big, to be honest. And so it's really Mile Tree, Stony Hill. Sewell Road does not currently have a timeout space. They have a sensory room only. And then Green Meadows has a timeout space. So it's really 3 of the 4 elementary schools. And part of the reason around the weekly inspections of the spaces are because, not here, other places, students were placed in some dangerous environments, whether it be a closet, a bathroom, exposed wires, leaky pipes. What? And so that's in part the precipitous for some of the
Not necessarily the
regulations.
corner of the same classroom with the other, you're just looking in a different direction.
Right, not that,
Are
like,
you telling me in a public school in Massachusetts, kids have been locked in the closet?
a space without well lit or ventilated, yeah, something along those lines. There've been
By
articles,
themselves?
yes, according to the newspaper article. I don't actually know if the newspaper article was all true.
Wow.
But that, and then there was a significant case in Minnesota around a school district that was doing some things that were not okay.
The sun is 1950 again.
And these regulations are gonna cost us money.
Yes.
And we don't have it. So once again, we're gonna be stealing from kids who aren't in the category to pay for the kids who are in the category.
Yes. Yes, in some way,
You know,
shape, or
this
form.
is the thing that bothers me most of all. You pass a law, and then DESI writes regulations that carries the weight of the law, but they never fund the damn things.
Correct.
And how many of those people making the laws actually taught in the classroom?
But
Yeah,
they're
that-
lawyers, so that would be known. Yeah. Right.
I mean, you,
We did, I will say, we, the directors, we, across the state, did raise that point during our in-person meeting with the department around the fact that they're giving us regulations and requirements without giving us the training, that they haven't really provided significant funding or alternatives, and that what they envision, what we envision as unintended consequences, for example, increased physical restraints, they did not foresee as an outcome of the revised regulations. So we have been pretty vocal around the holes, and we have yet to really receive a response.
I mean, all this yellow and stuff here, there's good ideas there, but there's no resources to have the people necessary to have a kid calm down with an adult. Well, our adults are already busy teaching or learning with one another. We don't have the resources to implement this stuff. We oughta talk to people, and that's a suit as far as I'm concerned. They're passing regulations that carry the weight of the law that make us shortchange some of our students to deal with kids who are in this category. It's the same thing that's happened over and over again with special ed. You're stealing from the regular ed kids to meet the mandated needs of these special category groups.
I'll agree with you on unfunded mandates all day long, but I actually think this is worse because we actually do have the resources to implement exactly what you just described. Every time I've seen a kid in space, it's been with an adult, working directly, constantly with the student, trying to get them to calm down, either, by just being present for them or by actively talking to them. What, for me, the sad part about this is this regulation is saying you can't do that anymore. If the student feels like that intervention made them feel like they couldn't just walk out and blow the staff member off, then it was unlawful segregation or seclusion.
What happens if we don't change our current policy?
Well, we still have to follow the regulations, even if we don't change our policies to match the regulations. And Josh has a compliance review coming up in the fall.
And what are the consequences if you're not in compliance?
Training, and they'll make us fix it anyway. They'll make us update the
So,
policy.
adult timeout.
Yes.
That you're not allowed to
Adult and
leave
potential,
from.
I would say,
That's what I say at the hospital. You do something, you get in trouble for it, they make you go to meetings. Go to meetings for it, right?
so I see a few different issues. I think the department would say it would be essentially adult timeout, and we would have to revise it anyway. Families of children who struggle social emotionally would also have, rightfully so, avenue to say that our policies don't line up with the regulations, even if it's what we follow. And I would say that that would probably be more problematic than less.
But if he can't go, if he can't go get in a regular classroom and walk out the door, he wants to.
As I read this policy,
I mean-
he can.
Right. But he got out and left my classroom and they're like, haven't let him back in ever.
The inmates are gonna be running the asylum.
But wait, a kid can't leave the building because then they'll be in danger. That's where the physical restraint comes in.
So our current practice is yes. The short answer is yes, but our current practice is to follow the student until they leave school property and we call the police. That's our current practice.
Like with a teenager in high school.
If it's a teenager in high school, I'm pretty sure that the high school administration just calls home and calls the police.
Okay.
Younger kids, we absolutely follow them until they're getting close to the border, then we call the police. And there have been times, like for example, I think of students who may be dysregulated and run out of the building during dismissal. We absolutely have had to put our hands on students to keep them safe, so that they don't get injured by a car. Or run out into, like Mile Tree, for example, right out into an actual road. That would be another incident where we would have to do that.
The kid gets up in math class, and this is why I says, I can get my buddies in the cafeteria right now. I'm walking out the door.
Well, that would fall under
Sure.
our code of conduct and our discipline practices. Because technically,
You can't
even
leave.
though students shouldn't walk out of the classroom without adult permission, technically they could, and we wouldn't put our hands on them.
You tell the restraint to put your hands, you just said, no, you can't. And if you do, you're not getting back in this classroom. That wouldn't fly either, would it?
No.
To do that, isn't.
I mean, there would be some type of consequence issued from an administrator. But then that would fall under, if it's a student with disabilities, there's only so much discipline we can issue
Disabilities, you know, just,
without other protections for them.
All right, so
there's discipline issues in schools.
So it sounds like we have to adopt a new policy, otherwise it's gonna be a real pain in the butt for you in the fall.
Yes.
I don't know, my feeling is that we should adopt the one that's had the minor edits from our attorney, because they're looking out for us. I don't have strong feelings about them either way, though. What do you guys think?
I mean,
Do you wanna go with the yellow one, or do you wanna go with the non-colored one, basically?
either one, but from repealing the whole law, but that's not gonna happen, so.
We can't change the law, although
Complaint.
we could bring this up for discussion at the school committee, after, you know, we're in the new session, and then see if our committee wants to propose, you know, a MASC resolution. Right? That would be our mechanism to try to push for a change to the law or something. To have something written to, you know, propose as a MASC resolution, so, if we wanted to, so.
I know there's, the high schools, sometimes
What
they teach
kind
there.
of data do they have that says this kind of a program is gonna help these kids? There are successful programs in other districts across this country that allow people to deal one-on-one with a kid, calm them down, deal with these emotions. But it just makes sense. We need more resources and more people who has training in terms of de-escalation and things like that. But that's what we should be doing. This doesn't make any sense to me at all. It's gonna deteriorate behavior terribly.
I don't disagree with you. So some of the examples that we provided were what happens if a student is running through the hallways, hooting and hollering. What are our recourses for supporting that student, and outside of all of the preventative measures that they talked about? So then I said, but sometimes all of the preventative measures could be in place, and you still have a student who's dysregulated and eloping through the hallways. And so their feedback was essentially, that you would have to restrain the student if they were unsafe, or imminent threat, not just unsafe. Or you'd have to look at whether the environment is an appropriate placement for that student. And that's where I think, in addition, that's where the fiscal impact will come, 100%. Because we can't have 3 or 4 students running around the hallways every single day. It just doesn't, the school can't function that way.
But the same thing is true for any other placement, because these regulations are also applicable to any like the out-of-district placements. So what do you do when every district sends some kids like that to an out-of-district placement, who also is not allowed to do anything other than let them run through the halls? Where do they send them?
They did not provide that answer.
Obviously not well thought out. Whoever wrote this policy never lived in a classroom and learned how to gain the confidence of kids.
Yep.
And you know, sometimes you do need to isolate a kid.
Yep. Show me you're the boss. Nope, nope. Back talk accepted. You know, I guess that worked 4 years ago.
All right, I'm looking for a motion to accept JKAA as edited by our attorney. No motion to accept.
I mean, on principle, I'll second it, but I was gonna make a motion for this policy I disagree with, but,
I would like to communicate with Desi and ask for data that demonstrates that these regulations will make a difference in the education of the children in the schools. Show me a school district that is doing this.
I'm all in favor of that, Tim. Go after them, attack them and everything else, but, you know, the regulations that are in place, and they already told us we have to follow them, whether we like them or not. While they're in place, we can fight them, right? We can get them changed, but while they're in place, we have to follow them. And then if our policy doesn't agree with the regulations, then we'll be violating our own policy, and I can't imagine that will go very well for Josh when we get inspected,
I mean, you know,
right?
the recommendation, Josh. And,
So for the time being, I think we have to accept the changes to the policy, hoping that we'll be visiting this policy again next year, when somebody comes to their senses, or maybe it's us going after them.
I think we need to question the policy.
Yes, I agree,
You know,
but right now, we can't not follow it.
You can't propose, and I'm happy to do it, just because, you know.
Now,
Are you allowed to?
I can, as chair, I don't like to make motions,
Okay.
but I kind of feel like the the chair's allowed to make a motion, right? So
So
I'll make a motion that we accept JKAA as amended by our attorney.
And I reluctantly give a second on that.
Okay. All those opposed? Okay, yeah, that's, I did oppose first. All those in favor?
It's smooth.
Okay, so passes 2-1. Okay. So, but I don't know, if you think that there's an MASC resolution that we might be able to help improve this situation, you know, I think that coming into the next school year, you know, because it takes time to put that together, right? And then the committee's got to support us submitting it to that, but that is not an unreasonable action we could take, right?
Maintaining discipline
But
in
we
the
would
classroom is
need,
key to
we
education.
would need your guidance and help with that, Josh.
Okay.
Because we're not experts in this, and so we might break something that's even dumber than this, so.
We can provide some guidance.
Okay, all right. And then, that was it?
That was it.
Then that's it.
We've done the other ones?
Yep.
All right, so I'm not anticipating another policy meeting before school committee reorganization in July. Do we know what the first school committee meeting in July is gonna be?
We do not. Put that on the agenda for the 28th. Usually, let's see, I'm gonna look to see what our options are, and you can tell me what,
My thought would be we do a reorganization meeting sometime late in July, and then don't meet at all in August, and then
The last week of July works for me,
And then-
maybe Kenya.
And then we start with our first and third Thursdays in September. Isn't that kind of what we did last year,
Mm-hmm.
Sounds reasonable.
right? Because, I mean, we're not gonna really have anything to discuss.
so the last week in July, we could do that. We have our admin retreat, the 27th, 28th, and 29th is our admin retreat, but we could do Thursday, July 30th for our first, or we could do it after our retreat, I guess. Monday,
Either way.
Thursday, July 30th, I am not on call. I am on call the Thursday before that, because we had no schedule, so
right?
I had sort of scheduled, so I could send it to me, get myself blocked. But, well, we're gonna discuss it, of course.
Do you want me to block out the 30th?
Do you wanna block out the 30th, and I'll hit, let's, you wanna,
No, we have to, that has to be Michelle.
no, but I can just say to Michelle, I can ask for, just
Okay.
feelers, like
Yeah,
send
yeah.
out, hey, would this work if this was going to be our first meeting?
Yeah,
Because you're,
sure.
3 of you are available the 30th, so it's a good start.
3 out of 7 is a good start.
I like it.
Okay. All right, motion. Anyone want to make a motion to adjourn?
So move.
I'll second that one without reluctance.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. We are adjourned. 7:26. Oh my God, we ran the most over out of any policy meeting then.
Well, we had,
Well, we had it.
We had, yeah, a lot of stuff going on, so.